on the any sorry guys, hold on just okay. Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to our quarterly meeting. Before we start, I'd like to welcome our new member, Peter, who's with Down syndrome. Sorry. Anyway, we're excited to have you with us. It's the first thing verified. Dot. It's the first thing verified.
Yes, the posting has been verified. We do have quorum, so we're good.
Okay, Wendy, will you take her off, please?
Yes, I can. Evander Davis,
Here.
Vicky Essner,
Wendy, this is Michelle Merrill. Just to let you know, Vicky Essner is no longer with the state of Nevada. She retired. Happy for Vicky. And we are in the middle of hiring a replacement person, which we hope to have in place by May. Or in May.
So
Thank you.
this is Dawn Lyons, just so that I can provide a little bit further clarification. Vicky did inform us of her retirement from the state service, and she is still a council member in a personal capacity. So thanks, Michelle, for that information, and
Oh, perfect.
brought me to the next point. So
Thank you so much. This is Wendy Thornley for the record. Mary Evilsizer. Here. Dee Dee Formaster. Jennifer Kane.
Jennifer Kane is excused today.
Thank you. Sabra McWhirter. Here. I heard that. Raquel O'Neill. Obioma Officer. Thank you. I see Obioma. Kate Osti. Cheyenne Pasquale.
Here.
Renee Portnell.
Here.
Ace Patrick, has she been able to join yet? I don't see her yet.
I don't see her yet, but Raquel is just joining the room.
Great, thank you. Linda Voivoda.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Julie Weissman Steinbach
Present.
and Peter Whittingham.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes roll call, and yes, we do have quorum.
Okay.
Hi, Wendy. This is Raquel O'Neill. I just wanted to let you know that I'm here.
Thank you so much, Raquel.
Absolutely.
Next, I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting on January 11th and 12th.
All motion
This
to move
is
it.
Commander Dave.
Sorry, Commander. This is Linda Voivoda. All motion moved it. All motion.
Second.
Sorry.
Okay. We can, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Did we want to allow any discussion? Is there any discussion on that?
Any discussion?
No.
And I just realized I did something really bad. I skipped over public comment. Let's go back. Do we have any public comment?
Hi, Julie, Havana Davis for the record.
Yes.
We are having spotty internet connection over here. So if you lose me, it's not my fault.
Yes, sir. Any other public comment?
And I'm still trying to get on my computer, so I'm on my phone right now and I can't mute you, so I'll try to be as quiet as possible. This is Linda, for the record.
Thank you, Linda.
Audio now unmuted.
Hi, Julie. This is Dora Martinez. I would just like to make a brief public comment, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to let everybody know this is sort of a short notice, but very important. There is the Senate Bill 422 regarding drones. It is on the Growth and Infrastructure Committee. The chair is Dallas Harris, and I have talked to them to see if we could be at the table regarding that. Cindy Swanson we emailed everyone. And so when it comes to her attaché to call me back, I will let you know, and hopefully somebody could be on the call with me. I know Cindy will, but a collaborative input from the disability population would be certainly welcome. And I also want to let everybody know that the Senate Bill 315, which I was a co-presenter yesterday, and I couldn't really get on, but I was there, is moving on to the, I believe, the floor. So it'll be on the other house, and I'll let everybody know when it comes to voting for people to testify and support. Thank you, and have a great meeting all.
Mute my audio button.
Thank you, Dora. Any other public comment?
Audio now unmuted.
Julie, this is Cindy Swanson. I don't know if my raised hand was noted by you folks. Okay. I, along with Dora, and I did write up some verbiage for 422. And Dawn, I've sent it to Dawn. People can look at it and see what they feel about it. We'll hear more from Dora. The interesting part of 422 that I want to share with this group is SILC works very hard with its legislative subcommittee. The Governor's Council also does similar things. I happened to be on a call with the NFB Blind Legislative Committee this week, and that's when I found out about Senate Bill 422. Real quickly, it allows drones to travel on sidewalks. The drones could be up to 150 pounds. They can go 10 miles an hour. And if you are living with a disability, that could be kind of dangerous. So we wrote up a notice to please, if we're going to have these drones, which you can't stop, to make sure that they have some kind of sounder that alerts people, a sounder that doesn't alarm people, and a sounder that allows people to say, please stop, I'm frightened, please stop, I'm blind, and it will respond. So I'm not a techno person, but that's what I wrote in it. The point of my conversation is we have, and Dawn has discussed this, we've got a lot of legislative committees through all of our different works, deaf, blind, physically disabled, that sort of thing. And I guess it would be my hope that we could do some kind of ambassadorship to what I would consider the main group, which is SILC, since it is cross-categorical. In all the watching of legislation that I've done, the last couple of weeks, I never saw 422 until I was sitting with the NFB people and they brought it up. And Dora, who watches these things crazy, it was new to her too. So I guess at some point it would be good to be able to create some, and I told the NFB I would be their ambassador from them to SILC on the legislative committee, but maybe that's one way we can bring everybody together and understand everybody's needs. So again, thank you for letting me have my thoughts, and let's have a good meeting.
Thank you, Cindy. Any other comment?
There you go. Okay.
Hello, this is Raquel O'Neill with Blind Connect. I just wanted to make a public comment about an upcoming exciting event that we're holding on May 17th at 10 a.m. at Betty's Village. We will be holding Nevada's first and only job fair designed for the blind and low vision community. And so we invite anybody who is interested in coming and checking it out to come and check it out. We have a registration form on our website at www.blindconnect.org. And what's going to be different about this job fair is we're calling it the Flipped Job Fair. It's an inclusive-minded job fair that allows not just for employers to look for employees, but provides employers resources about individuals who have disabilities and live with disabilities and what our capabilities are and how we can perform job duties. And so we will have booths and showcases of that kind right alongside with the employers so that they too can get information, as well as employees gathering information about jobs. So if anybody from the disability community is interested and wants to come and check it out, please go to our registration form and our website and join us for May 17th, 10 a.m.
That sounds great. Any other comments?
This is Dawn Lyons. It looks like Ace Patrick just announced that she is present now in the chat.
Dawn, do you see any of it?
I do not see any hands up at this time.
Okay. Seeing no other raised hands, we're gonna move on to item 4. And I just forgot it earlier, so let me again welcome our new member, Peter Whittingham. Peter, would you like to say, introduce yourself briefly?
Thanks, Julie, and good morning to all attendants of this meeting. By way of very brief introduction, my name is Julie Peter Whittingham. I've been involved in the business of advocating for persons with disability for the past 24 years, started with the birth of my daughter, Sophia, who has Down syndrome. She's now 24 years old. Retired from the police department in Los Angeles as a police captain, came to this great state 5 years ago and resumed my involvement in the advocacy for persons with disability through Down syndrome, Best Buddies, and other organizations. I'm currently the board chair for the Down syndrome organization, and I heard Raquel on minutes ago. I'm co-located here at Betty's Village with Raquel. I attended this meeting a year or so ago, and the moment that I attended the meeting, I knew that I really want to be a part of this. And now it's a privilege to move from my abbreviated speech as a member of the public, make with public comments, to now join so many others, Julie and Dawn and all the rest of the members of the team, be a part of this advocacy voice, to advocate for inclusion and all that is needed for the entire service population of the disability community. So I am absolutely honored and privileged to be a part of this team, and I'm looking forward to working with other team members, further educating myself and learning ways in which I can add my voice advocacy for our service populations. Thank you so very much. Julie, great to be a part of the team, and I'm looking.
We're excited. Linda,
Yeah, just a second. Just a second.
we're excited to have you, Peter.
Here we go. Sorry.
It's okay.
I had to download the Zoom, so I apologize.
Okay. Is Nikki Haig on the call?
Hi, Julie. Yes, I am on the call, and I would just like to introduce myself. I am the Community Engagement Manager with Aging and Disability Services. I was previously with Aging and Disability Services as our Public Information Officer, our Legislative Liaison, and our Tribal Liaison. And so I am pretty new to this role. I came back to ADSD in December, so happy to be on board. And if anybody needs anything, please reach out to me at Aging. Thank you.
We're excited to have you join us. Nikki, welcome. Okay, it's item number 5. Nikki's actually going to join us tomorrow. So we're going to skip over that and come back to that tomorrow. So we're going to move on to item number 6. Consumer trends. Mary, are you on?
Julie, yes, I'm on. And I just want to say the wind here, I hope I don't get cut off. We've been having internet issues, but thank you.
Low pain occupation. According to the Institute for Justice.
Would you like me to proceed with my report?
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you. It's good to see you, Julie. And my name is Mary Evil-Sizer, and I am the Executive Director for the Southern Nevada Center for Independent Living. And I do apologize, my camera's not working today. But I'd like to report that we provide services here in Clark County. And for those of you that are new, or for those of you that are guests, we provide independent living services for individuals.
Yeah, that's because I'm in the middle of a Zoom conference,
Of
sweetheart.
all,
Dee, could you mute?
What's your phone number?
Dee, could you please mute?
all right.
I'm sorry, Mary.
That's okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Julie. We provide services for individuals of all ages and all disabilities. That gives us a very broad range of individuals we provide services to. And again, we provide the 5 core services as designated by the Rehabilitation Act as amended July of 2015 into the WIOA Act. Those 5 core services briefly are information and referral, independent living skills training, advocacy, both individual and systems advocacy, and peer counseling. We provide 2 types of transition services. We provide youth transition services and nursing home transition services. And with that being stated, the numbers for this quarter that we're reporting from the Southern Nevada Center for Independent Living in Clark County, our highest number for our service request, which translates into our service trends, is housing. Last time we reported 97% of our service requests were for housing. This time it's 83% for housing, which is still within the same margins, indicating that we do have problems, as everywhere else, with affordable and accessible housing. Other percentages, we had requests for IELTS skills training, 6%, peer counseling services, 3%. And then we have transportation services, 12%, vocational services, 1%. Those are the service requests that we've been seeing. So those are the service trends we're working with here in Clark County. Also in Clark County, as everywhere else, we're projecting service trends needs, and those service trends needs will be in food insecurities. As we all know, SNAP is cutting back on a lot of the benefits provided during the pandemic. We're seeing it with the senior populations, and what we're doing at the center is updating our food securities list, all the food banks, any food services that we have here in Clark County. We just did find out that Lyft will be providing rides to food banks for seniors in Clark County, and we're partnering with them to see if we can expand that service to include individuals with disabilities. 3 Square has always been very generous to the disability community, so I don't believe we'll have a problem with that. The other insecurity is going to be funds. As we know, parents were getting stipends through Medicaid for additional childcare services, for childcare, for food, housing, and anything else that a child might need. Those are being cut back as well. One additional insight that we have is for Medicaid healthcare benefits. It has been announced that recertification processes will commence. In the past, in the pandemic, what happened was recertification was halted. However, now, if someone that's getting Medicaid doesn't recertify, if they get confused and think we're still following the procedures of the pandemic, their benefits will be cut off. At the center, what we try to do is send out the word. We are able to reach our consumers best by postcard, to rely on the US mail and be careful to search the US mail for the recertification paperwork. One of the services that we do offer is assistance in completing that recertification. So while those aren't trends now, those are what we are anticipating. Another section of my report includes our scholarship program. Again, we want to thank the SILC for the scholarship to send 2 youth to the National Conference for Centers for Independent Living. This is the 2nd year we've had the scholarship, and we have been promoting it to all of the school systems. We have started getting essays from the students who must be nominated by their teacher. Our winners from last year will be the ones that will help us to select this year's winners. So we're excited to see who wins. The scholarship does include travel and transportation costs for the teacher that nominates the winning candidate, and again, for a parent to chaperone the candidate. So we're excited to see who our grand winner will be this year. All centers for independent living take very seriously the fact that it's very easy for centers to gray out. So we're very interested in what the SILC is doing for youth in transition. And we are also working with youth in transition, trying to develop new leaders, trying to make sure that we have an interest always in the independent living movement and in promoting the independent living philosophy. My next topic is regarding the Clark County School District Star Fair. As I mentioned last time, the Southern Nevada Center for Independent Living has been mentoring the Star Fair event, which has been taking place for many years. It is for all the high school students in Clark County School District to learn about what's available in their community. And we particularly look at the graduating seniors and juniors and, freshmen in high school to guide them to enlist our services, to get to know about the SILC, to get help them to get to know about VR. So we are working with them, and the school system did agree to allow vaccine clinic during the Star Fair event. And our center is partnering with CCSD to set up the vaccine clinic. So that event will be April 29, 2023 from 10 to 2. We are in the process of getting the flyer from the school system. Wendy will get it to you as soon as we can if you want to share it. It's primarily for Clark County School District high school students. Another event that we're participating in will be on May 13th, 2023. The city of North Las Vegas is sponsoring the Nevada Senior Health Fair. It's going to be on Saturday, May 13th, 2023 from 10 to 4. Again, when there's a health fair for seniors, it's usually a good combination of vendors for seniors and for the disability community. I do want to talk about one outreach that we found to be outstanding during this last quarter, and that was the outreach that was planned and held by the Silverado High School for their graduating seniors, and also for the seniors that had graduated the year before. It was called Life After High School, and it was a wonderful idea to see what is happening with students after high school. And for those that missed all the services that were available to them by any chance, they had the opportunity to connect during this event. Also want to update the SILC Council. Our PPR, let me see, that's the alphabet soup, excuse me. It's Performance Progress Reports for the Administration for Community Living, who is the primary funder for our services, is still in progress of reviewing and approving our report. However, once it is approved, we will send a copy to the SILC as we do every year. And with that, that's the end of my report. Julie, I do want to thank you and Dawn for all the extra time that you did take explaining the PPR and for listening to us on, sometimes we have different perspectives or are looking at different regulations. So we appreciate the time. And with that, we thank you for listening. And
Mary, I'd like to make one request. can you bring the winning essay to the next meeting?
Absolutely, Julie. And if you don't mind, if I'll bring last year's winning essays, they are tremendous. They
I
are.
think that would be really interesting for some members. Ace, you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi, this is Ace Patrick for the record. Thank you, Julie. Mary, I just have a quick question on that Lyft program with them providing rides to seniors down there in the Las Vegas area or Clark County. Would somebody who's maybe not on the Lyft program or not familiar with it, how would they just get in touch with Lyft itself and ask them about that program of being provided a ride to the food bank? Or should they call the center, or what would be the best thing? I have some people down south that might be interested and that definitely need transportation and are not necessarily, part of the disability community, but they're seniors. Or they don't consider themselves part of the disability community anyway. What would be do you have any idea what would be the best avenue for them to take?
Yes, I do. And then actually I have staff researching and calling, but the way when I talk to Lyft and 3 Square, they are sending out a postcard to all individuals who are 60 or older. And they showed me their postcard, and on the postcard it says, if you are 60 or older and need a ride to a food bank, call this number. And then I will email that number to Wendy, and then she can send it out to everybody. So Lyft does understand that a lot of seniors have never ridden Lyft before. So it's a way of walking them through how to ride Lyft. But then again, at the center, if anybody has any problems accessing any service, if they call us, and then to be honest, Ace, even if they don't have a disability, through our INR, we help everyone. So best just to call Lyft and say, I'm calling about the 3 Square food bank program and I need a ride. And I'm a senior, age 16 or older.
This is Ace again. Thank you very much, Mary. And I look forward to receiving that email with, the information, because that way I can pass that along to some of the seniors I know down in your direction. Thank you again. I appreciate your time.
No problem. And then we're also adding the phone number to our Facebook and then to our website. And then on our website, we're putting together, again, because we are anticipating food insecurities, a list of what is working, what is not. And our consumers are always very good about saying, we tried this, and through our INR, actually, we do follow up on our INR calls to find out if it worked or it didn't work. Then we try to spread the word that way. But thank you for spreading the word.
This is Ace. Thank you again, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. Is Lisa here?
I do see her name. She may have trouble unmuting. If we want to give her a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Hello?
Hi, Lisa.
Oh, sorry. For some reason, this connection keeps wobbling. I don't know what the deal is. Thank you. Sorry for the lumpy opening there. Lisa Bonney, Northern Nevada Center for Independent Living. Given a little trends update here. And Mary stole a lot of my thunder because quite honestly, a lot of what we work on is so similar throughout the state. Just to remind everyone that Northern Nevada Center for Independent Living is located in Sparks, Nevada, but we provide services to all of the counties in Nevada except for Clark. On that note, I will start in with some data that we're seeing with our consumers. And what we're seeing a lot of is in housing operations, we have seen an 89% increase compared to the 55% increase that we saw last quarter. So the need for housing assistance, housing search assistance, rental assistance, all of that is really starting to surge as all of the CARES Act money has pretty much dried up, and all of the additional funds that were around during COVID. Just to remind this group, the federal declaration of an emergency will officially expire on May 13th. So we know that is coming up very quickly. And to add on to what Mary said, the additional funding for SNAP benefits, food stamps, that sunsetted March 31st. So we've been in preparation for that for a couple of months. Oh, excuse me, a couple of months here in our offices, contacting different resources to make sure that we had the most current information, because we do know that starting this month, there's going to be an uptick in food insecurity again. So just trying to be on the leading edge of that. We also have been receiving inquiries from out of state, which has pushed some of our numbers up. People querying us about housing that are considering relocating, and we're seeing a trend: Oregon, Colorado, and Utah. So I don't know if the welcome wagon has been working there or what is spurring that on, but it's kind of an interesting little twist. And we have a 76% increase in other housing concerns. And when you dive deep into those numbers, those other housing concerns, people who have poor credit history and can't, qualify for housing, as well as we're getting a lot of requests for financial assistance for housing repair. So naturally, we are, as part of our INR, we connect people with other services in our communities. But I do know that the funding for that is limited. And then the other thing that we're seeing a big upsurge in is request for utility assistance. People have already gone through the NV Energy, their program, which you can only access periodically. And so they're falling in the gaps of that. And we're very concerned, as I said, now that SNAP benefits are decreasing, and knowing that a lot of other supports are starting to fall away now that number is going to start to go up and up more and more. We have also seen an uptick in participation, which is great, in our peer support groups. And I'm sorry, I've got to switch notes here. And participation with our online trainings, and we've opened up to small in-person trainings as well now. So we have NVDA, we have iOS beginners, and we have an iOS group that's a little bit more advanced, as well as a couple of different peer support groups around technology and around blind low vision services. As Mary said, we are also quite concerned. We've had our eye on this about the Medicaid recertifications. And we have we've instituted an education and a communications campaign for consumers, kind of getting them reacquainted with the certification process and encouraging them to make sure that they're paying attention to their mail. And as they get the recertification paperwork, if they have any issues filling it out or are uncomfortable, to contact us, and we would be more than happy to assist them in making sure that they don't get swept off the rolls. Because I was on a federal call, I think it was a week or so ago, and they're acknowledging that they're very concerned that people are going to lose their benefits have to reapply, and that takes some time, and we don't want to see anybody fall into that gap. That would not be good. The other thing that's on our radar that we are keeping track of is COVID testing and COVID vaccines, because when the federal emergency declaration sunsets on May 13th, from what we're being told, that free testing and free vaccines are going to become very limited. Currently, if you look, there are a lot of public clinics going on. They're kind of doing this last push for any kind of boosters, or if somebody's completely unvaccinated and decides that now's the time, they have access that way. We are concerned that after mid-May, it's going to be more difficult to find those services. We've been working with the Washoe County Health District, and we've been in contact with the health districts in the other counties to make sure that we know where the referral sites are going to be, and how people who are uninsured and don't have access to other programs can access vaccines and testing if they find themselves in need. And then the other thing that I wanted to discuss is for direct service providers up here more particularly in Washoe County, we are once again partnering with the city of Sparks, the city of Reno, and NCIL to have Mark Wellman Adventure Day and the Abilities Expo. And the Abilities Expo is an opportunity for direct service providers to connect with the community and educate folks about what their services are and what programs that they might have that would be of interest. For those of you who don't know, Mark Wellman is a very well-known mountain climber who is a person with disabilities. He brings his rock climbing wall, and they get everybody up on the wall, to climb. And there's all kinds of different kinds of adaptive bicycles. There's kayaking. It's at the Sparks Marina, so there's actually water. So there's kayaking and biking, and we have demonstrations of different types of adaptive sport gear, as well as recruiting for different teams around town that are particular for people with disabilities. So the actual event will be Sunday, June the 4th, from 10 to 2 at the Sparks Marina. The initial flyer went out to service providers. I believe it was distributed yesterday. So if it's not in your inbox yet, it's winging its way through the internet ethersphere, or whatever that is called, to land in your box, so that you will have time to plan for this. I really hope that if you're up in this area and you're a direct service provider, that you will join us. I believe last year, in addition to all of the adaptive athletic things, I believe we had 44 or 48 different programs and service providers represented. So it was really great, and we had a very nice turnout of consumers. It was actually it was a very nice day too. I don't know about down there in Las Vegas if you've heard, but we have a lot of snow up here, so it's very cold. So hopefully by June things will have turned around, and it will be nice, and people will want to be out in the community. So I think that was all I had to share with you today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Dee Dee?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dee Dee Formaster, the Executive Director to the Rural Center for Independent Living. I want to bring you up to date on some of the things we're working on. We have been working on our housing grant very diligently. And we just got word, I guess, about 3 to 4 weeks ago that they're throwing another 36 people out of low-income housing so they can bulldoze the place. So I'm very concerned about the fact that they're is not a lot of housing. And the fact that we have more people being thrown out on the streets. They have to be out by August. So we're starting to work with them now in the hopes that we can find something. And I do want to report that we got about 3 people off the streets last month. Thanks to Linda and her wonderful contacts over at the senior housing. And she's developed a very good relationship with them. And we also have been working on our support group. And from our support group has sprung a recreation group. So we kind of have 2 groups now. Our support group is usually once a month. And we usually do it at the pizza parlor because, as we know, food always helps. So we have started a recreation program off of that, which is really wonderful. So we have about 15 people in that group right now. And we have started going to the movies together, bowling, and also we're starting to do bird watching and hiking. So, but that's just recent, seeing as the weather's been so miserable here. So, and other than that, we have our normal intakes going on every day at the center. And we have our legislative work and our advocacy work that we've been doing in the community. And so I'm going to keep my report short because everyone has had very comprehensive reports. And I think due to the time constraint, we need to cut things short. So thank you very much for your time. God bless you.
Thank you, Dee. Dawn, I see your hand.
Thank you. Yes, this is Dawn Lyons. Dee Dee, I just have one question regarding your you were saying your intakes are as usual every day. Can you give me an idea of other than housing, are there any other requests that are coming into your center that are significant?
Yeah, housing, advocacy, a lot of advocacy lately. We've been filling out a lot of forms for housing. We've been working with Social Security, a lot of advocacy in that area. And of course, ADA, because of course we've had lots of snow and things are not accessible. So those are some of the things we've been working very diligently on. And the trends, as far as I can see, there's mostly just local people here that cannot find housing. We have very few people that really come from out of town.
Yeah, thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. I appreciate you answering that a little bit with a little bit more detail. I think it's important to understand what those advocacy requests are for, so I appreciate that.
No problem. Is there any other questions?
Thank you.
It's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the legislative committee. Stephen, you give us an update?
Thank you. This is Stephen for the record. So I have a quite extensive report.
Can you try to limit it to like limit it to like 5 minutes?
Sure. So there have been some concerns about Assembly Bill 133 and 161. I did receive confirmation last night that 133 is dead. It will not get a hearing. 161, we will need to work with Assemblyman C.H. Miller on any amendments that we want. In terms of Assemblywoman Brown May's bills, Assembly Bill 78 is on the Senate side already. Assembly Bill 79, which is the 700-hour bill, is dead. Assembly Bill 99 has been work sessioned. 100 has been work sessioned. 116 is being work sessioned today. 206 was work sessioned, and then 259 has been heard, but it is exempt. And also 99 and 100 are also exempt.
Excuse me, Stephen, this is Dawn Lyons. I don't mean to interrupt, but I know Julie asked you to keep it succinct, but for those of us who need just a brief description of what those bills are, because not everybody here is in the legislative subcommittee, so they're not following or tracking all of those. Just a number is kind of like, oh, I don't know what that means. So if you could just give us a couple sentences about each one or a couple words about each one, that would be great.
Sure. So 133 and 161 are driver's license related bills. There's a couple of other driver's license bills that I'll get to at the end. 78 is exempting jobs and day training providers from being required to be nurses to administer medication during consumers' work days. 79, I mentioned. 99 is about Medicaid reimbursement rates. 100 is about caregivers. 116 is Down syndrome information. 206 will add an additional seat to the Deaf Commission, and 259 is 14C, which is the Fair Labor Standards Act. Minimum wage phase out. Moving into Assemblywoman Cohen's bills, Assembly Bill 252 is accessible museums. That one's been heard and is exempt. Assembly Bill 255 is foster care support for folks with disabilities up to age 18. That one has been work sessioned and is exempt. And then 446 was being heard this week. That is a guardianship bill. And then I'll run through the remaining bills quickly. Assembly Bill 37 has been heard and is exempt. That one is to create the Behavioral Health Workforce Center at UNLV. Senate Bill 43, I'm going to transpose Senate Bill 4 and 43. One of them is the, oh, I just lost it.
SB4, this is Dawn Lyons. SB4, I believe, is the one about the councils and commissions through aging and disability services, or is SB 46? Is that what?
This is Cheyenne for the record. SB 43 is the one, it's the cleanup bill for ADSD, and SB 4 is the one making some changes to the senior and disability RX programs.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Thanks, Cheyenne.
Thank you. So Senate Bill 45 is the personal needs allowance bill. That one's in finance, has been heard and is exempt. Senate Bill 191 will be heard next week. That will make changes to applied behavior analysis. Or no, the age cap, I'm sorry, the age cap for ABA. And then Senate Bill 158 is cameras in special ed classrooms. That one's been heard and is exempt. And then we have a whole list of bills for our next meeting. Julie, do you want me to go through those? Or do you want me to stop there?
Actually, this is Dawn Lyons. Stephen, can you just explain really quick what you mean by the ones that you called exempt?
So that means that there's deadlines. For example, next Friday, the 14th, anything that doesn't pass the committee in the originating house is technically dead. And anything that doesn't pass the originating house floor by the 25th is technically dead. If something is exempt, that means it will probably go down to the very end or pretty close there too.
Thank you. And if you don't mind me just expanding upon our last meeting regarding AB 161, there was a letter that we approved at a special meeting with the Deaf Commission and the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. That is included in our materials. So hopefully you had a chance to read that, because it was our position statement and it was an educational letter that we provided in testimony on that.
Got it. And that one will be heard. That one's being heard by the DD Council's Exec Committee tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're interested in that one, go to the DD Council's Executive Committee tomorrow. And then, like I said, I do have a whole list of bills for our next meeting, which will be May 18th at 1 o'clock. That's a Thursday. Are there any questions?
Stephen, are you there?
Yes.
For the record, this is Member Peter Whittingham. As you look at the list of pending bills, are you in a position to sort of prioritize for this meeting for us, which one is perhaps most important in terms of the needs for the community, and what we as a board can do to put our weight behind those that are significant?
Sure. So this is Stephen for the record. I think they're really all important.
Understood.
Because there's a dozen disability bills. That was the other part of my conversation with Assemblywoman Brown May last night. And kind of she cautioned against not talking to the bill sponsors before coming in opposition. There's a difference between coming in opposition as a SILC versus as an individual. So that was kind of her position on the whole thing. Dawn, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, this is Dawn Lyons. So let me just clarify really quick. SILC does not oppose, nor do we promote or approve of any specific bills. We are not allowed to lobby. What we can do is we can educate legislators on how it would affect the disability community. And so that's what we try to do. If we get together and we feel strongly about something or we have concerns, we will reach out and express those concerns with them. So sometimes, because legislature moves so quickly, sometimes we don't find out about it until it's already in work session and we can only provide a testimony. And even then we have to have a certain amount, either a quorum of SILC members or a quorum of executive team members to approve of an educational letter that would inform as far as public comment goes. But individuals on their own time are welcome to give testimony in opposition of or in approval of any bills that they want. They just cannot do it on behalf of our council. The other thing I was going to say is, because legislature moves so fast, Peter, in an ideal world, we would love to give you all a great idea of what's coming up and what you should be present for. Unfortunately, we often don't know until either that week of, or even sometimes that same day. So what we try to do is as soon as we get that information, it may be short notice, but I will send out an email blast to everyone and inform them that it will be heard and when and how they can participate. So if you ever hear of anything, please share it, because I will then share it with the rest of the group. It's how we best communicate about legislation as it's going through the process, because it does happen so fast.
Thanks.
Dawn, I'd like to do number 8. And then I'd like to take a 15-minute break. Does that work?
I'm seeing approval of that, Julie.
Okay. So, Jordan, Stephen, would you like to do number 8?
Thank you. This is Stephen for the record. So kind of, I guess the intent of this item, as Peter was trying to go with his question, it's often very difficult to testify on sometimes 12 hours notice, or even less than that sometimes. So kind of, I guess what we would be looking for here is authority for the legislative subcommittee to be able to educate legislators on bills as they become available. Dawn, is that kind of where this is going?
Yeah, so this is Dawn Lyons. It's basically the same thing as asking permission from the SILC for the SILC legislative subcommittee as we discover more about bills that come up, because the legislative subcommittee meets more often, especially now during legislative session, than the SILC does, to be able to go ahead and approve of educational letters or public comment being provided, or even working with legislators if they request it, from a consensus of our group present during our SILC legislative subcommittees, as opposed to having to have a quorum of SILC members. And really, we've done this in the past just so that we can speak up on things that we would like to, even if we don't have our next SILC meeting until July when session's already over. So that's why we do this, so we don't have to have a bunch of special meetings and hope we get quorum and all that. So we're just asking not for any one specific person necessarily, not even the chair, to go ahead and alone speak on SILC's behalf about educating, but rather to have a consensus of the legislative subcommittee group at the time provide that education.
One of you have language for a motion?
Sure. So this is Dawn Lyons. I guess we're looking for a motion to allow the SILC legislative subcommittee to approve communication with legislature during session as a consensus of the group as we meet.
Hi, this is Raquel O'Neill for the record, and I so move what Dawn said.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Do we have a second?
This is Ace Patrick. I second that motion.
Any discussion?
Is there need to be, and this is Peter Whittingham, Dawn, is there need to be specific, more specific in terms of what the authority will be for the subcommittee?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Is there a need to be more specific in terms of what we are authorizing, or what the subcommittee to do at this point in the motion?
Well, we really only discuss bills and BDRs as they come up in the legislative session, or what we'd like to see come up in the legislative session. So during session, we're just asking for permission from the SILC to educate on behalf of the SILC Council on bills that are in session.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thanks.
Any other discussion? Wendy, could you take a roll call?
Yes, I can. Okay, so the roll call for the voting members is Havander Davis.
Aye.
Vicki Esner has not joined us, correct?
I don't see her.
Thank you. Mary Evilsizer.
Aye.
Dee Dee Formaster.
Aye.
Sabra McWhirter. You're muted, Sabra.
Aye.
Thank you. Did Kate Ostie join us by any chance? I don't see her. Okay, Renee Portnell.
Aye.
Ace Patrick.
Aye.
Linda Voivoda.
Aye.
Julie Weissman Steinbach.
Aye.
And Peter Whittingham.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Okay, I'd like to take a 15-minute break. It's 2:08. So let's try to get back just a little bit before 2:30. Okay.
So 2:23.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. I will pause the recording until 2:23.
Again, thank you. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We're going to move on to item number 9 regarding the industry, but innovation and expansion funding book read. And I'd like to ask Dawn to present.
Thank you, Julie. This is Dawn Lyons, and I really just want to throw these ideas out here because we're working in behind the scenes, trying to work on ways to figure out how we can include innovation and expansion funding in our next state plan for independent living, as ACL has required from us. So I've been talking to Michelle Merrill. I know she's here right now, but I proposed an idea between information that she's given me about how their drawdown works and information about, what ACL has given me about our innovation and expansion funding requirements, and from what the RSA has given information to Voc Rehab about what they're allowed to do. So Michelle is looking into the legal aspects of the possibility, and this is just an idea we had and we're checking into it, is because for every non-federal dollar that we can donate to Voc Rehab, they can draw down 4 times that. So what we're thinking is if they can draw down 4 times the amount that non-federal dollars are donated, half of that could possibly go into innovation and expansion funding to whomever donates it. So in other words, you would be getting more back in return through the SILC, through INE funding for specific purposes, if you were able to come up with non-federal dollars. So it is just on the table right now. We're not really sure if it's legal. She's checking into that right now. But I'm guessing that if we do, and this actually falls right into the next agenda item, if you don't mind me blending the two, Julie. It blends right into the next one about fundraising activities, because we'd like to throw it out there that even if this doesn't work out the way we're hoping, we can come up with something else, some other way to work this out. But we'd still like to create fundraising opportunities with the Centers for Independent Living. The SILC is allowed to do that per our state plan for independent living, per ACL, the Administration for Community Living. So being that that's one of our activities that we're allowed to do, we'd like to partner with the centers, because you guys are probably more well-versed in fundraising activities and have that part of it down, that if we can work together and SILC can help maybe fund some of those opportunities, or, you know, go partner on it, or that in that regard, just, you know, maybe we can even help by being there if you can't, or whatever, in whatever capacity we have to work together to do some fundraising activities. Whatever money we can come up with, we're hoping that if we can donate that money towards vocational rehabilitation services, that we can get half of their drawdown in the long run, so that we can, it's a win-win, right? They get half of that money and we could get half of that money to support Centers for Independent Living activities or programs. So anyway, and then also just the SILC doing fundraising for ourselves as well, if we would like to do that. I'd like to get some feedback from the centers and from SILC members to see what your thoughts are on what kind of fundraising activities we could do, if you think it's possible, if you think it's a good idea, and if you have any thoughts on the drawdown from Voc Rehab, and you'd like to share that with Michelle while she's here. Mary?
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Don. Many years ago, I served on the VR Council, and we had an interesting situation where an agency attempted to do that, donate funds to Voc Rehab so that they could do the dollar-for-dollar drawdown. And Michelle, the complication we ran into at that time from ACL and RSA, they just told us it wasn't allowable, because that was the intent, that agency would donate funds, and then Voc Rehab would, whatever was, you know, like half of it would donate that back to the agency. However, I like the attempt. I like the idea. And with ACL and RSA, it's best to check, because you never know, maybe it has changed. And I'd just like to say that from the CIL fundraising standpoint, at our center, the Southern Nevada Center for Independent Living, the fundraising that we've done, we always look for funding that is going to be solid, secure, and that's going to be long-term sustainable. We try not to get into grants or grant situations that are one time for a small amount. We've found that sometimes those grants end up taking more of your time for their reporting and their requirements. So that, I'm just sharing with you the voice of experience that we've had at SNCIL. So again, we seek long-term funding, stable funding that's going to be with us for a long time. It's very hard from a center standpoint to have a service and then not have it. With our consumers, it affects them. Like, I had that, now why don't I have it? And it was a short-term grant. But if we do have short-term money, we explain that to them. We don't do regular fundraising. We don't sell candy bars or books or anything like that. When we need money for something specific, like housing or rent, we will work with that money if it's long-term and sustainable. I hope that helps.
This is John Lyons. I appreciate that input, Mary, and I'm glad that it's been looked into before, so you have some background experience on that proposal. Although I still think it's a good idea for Michelle to ask now, and I appreciate her doing so. And I welcome you, Michelle, if you would like to speak on that at all. You're welcome to. But I mean, it's worth a shot again, right? we can ask.
Yeah, this is Michelle, and Michelle Merrill for the record. And I agree with Dawn. You know, every question you don't ask is a no. So we're going to ask the question. We're going to look into it and see if it is a no, maybe they say you can't do this, but you could do that. So we're hoping that our creativity and effort will help us find a way.
Really?
Yeah, I was on another, what's the word? Organization where we did fundraising and whatnot to assist people with disabilities. Some of it was to gather up money so we could give horse riding lessons to people with disabilities, elderly that had strokes and whatnot, and couldn't afford to ride the horses. So we did fundraising for that and other things like that. And it does work out if you explain, you know, why you're doing it and who it's for and whatnot. But I've never seen it go the other way where it'd be, you know, SILC and voc rehab doing it or whatever. But if we could do it, I think it'd be a good idea.
Thank you. It is.
Yeah, hi, this is Ace Patrick for the record. I think it's a grand idea, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from Michelle and in whether or not this is something that we can actually do. If not, I still think fundraising is a good idea for the SILC anyway. I think it's time to move into that. I'm not really sure. I'd like to hear more from the centers eventually about where they go to find, like what Mary was talking about long-term sustainable fundraising. You know, here in the state of Nevada, I'm curious about that and how we would go about that, and would love to see the centers partnering with us to do this as well. So that's just my 2 cents worth, and thanks so much, Julie.
Thank you. Very.
Yes, thank you, Julie. Ace, and thank you. One of the strategies we use, we subscribe to a grant software subscription company. It's called Grant Solutions. And so we look carefully and we study what's available, what's coming out. And then the other place that we go to find out what grants are available is the ACL website actually to find out what's coming out. And Ace, you said something interesting to find out what funds are available. We at the centers have found, and it's nobody's fault, it's just the way it is here in Nevada. We do know we took some large hits in our state budget a few years ago that the state's still trying to recoup from. So state funds are minimal for long-term sustainable projects. That's what we found in our experience. The state is wonderful for short-term 2-year projects. And, you know, and the state does like to offer the opportunity for many people to take those short 2-year projects. So again, where we're finding our funding is through federal grants. You know, there's Social Security offers some grants. Some of the training programs for independent living offer those grants. But again, we look at them carefully. When you do a grant, you're going to invest time, you're going to develop a program, policies and procedures. So if the way we see it, if you're going to invest that much time, invest it in something that's going to be with you for a long time. Nothing against short-term grants. And I think it's wonderful to raise money for activities such as horse therapy. I think that's an awesome activity, and it's a good project because, you know, you're raising money for however many people want horse therapy, and you tell them it's going to be for a short period of time. So you go into it with that understanding. With our regular services, the 5 core services, that's where we look for the long-term funding. So either way, it's great that the SILC is moving in that direction. And my recommendation would be to look for federal, check the state, never ever overlook anything, but know what's offered through the federal and through the state. And I'm happy to share with the SILC because I do searches on grant solutions all the time.
Thank you, Mary. Dawn, and then Dee.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. That's great, Mary. And I do want to look into more long-term sustainable grant funding in the future. However, because SILC is working right now at becoming a 501c3 and we had to start from scratch, it might be a while before we're eligible to apply for some of those. So if you ever want to partner on one, or you think one would be appropriate for us to do the work on, that we could partner together, I'm more than happy to work with you on those opportunities. So just reach out to us and do let us know if you come across one that looks appropriate. That would be really helpful. The other thing I was going to say is, as far as what we need as a SILC, as a council, you know, if we do our own fundraising on the side as well, we can fundraise and really include the Youth Action Council a little bit more and have them do some of that education and some of that work and really, you know, reach out to the community, and it would give us more exposure, help spread the word of independent living. So it would be a double benefit for us actually if we did some of those things out in the public, maybe some recreational activities like the Northern Center for Independent Living is doing with the activities at the lake. You know, that things like that, or Dee Dee came up with an idea to do a zombie run, you know, at October time. So, and those would be really great things to put into place and to really partner on. And, you know, it would be, like I said, a win-win for everybody, because we also need additional funding. We know we're also short on state funds, right, Mary? So,
yes.
So yeah, I mean, if we could work on some of those fundraising activities with the centers, with other partners, or even just on our own, you know, we can improve our circumstances quite a bit, I think. And I'd like to start working on some of that.
Yeah, I agree. And I like the focus on the youth. Some of the centers have gotten funding through Pepsi-Cola, Don, for youth activities, that it's not long-term, it's not sustainable, but that would be for youth recreational, social recreational ideas to get more youth involved. They're short-term, but for the youth programs, that might just be what they need. You don't have as many federal regulations regulating that, and it does allow the youth to unite, and that's a big bonus. And I like the recreational. We at our center, we would love to go in that direction. It seems like more often than not, we're faced with, it's almost like a crisis: housing, food insecurities, transportation. So I know with us, sometimes we feel like, are we a center or are we a social service agency? However, when you are in a community, you have to, as a center, look at the indigenous needs. But we would like to break out, to peek around the corner and say, gosh, there's more to life than this. Right now, though, we do know the priorities that our consumers have. So we're happy to share information on social, recreational, partnering for different activities. We've always wanted to do, also in October, a masquerade ball, just for fun, just to have our consumers have the opportunity to, they get to go somewhere and dress up, and they are running it and they're having fun. So lots of good ideas, lots of neat things we can do with fundraising jointly.
I love that idea, Mary. This is Dawn Lyons. I love that masquerade ball idea. And I do have youth grant opportunities that come into my personal email box, because I've always been interested in helping homeless youth. So that's something that I've been passionate about before I got involved in the SILC. So I get some of those too. And I know when Marina was youth action leader, I forwarded her a grant opportunity that she actually won. So she did get, it was a small $100 award, but it was something, so I keep those in mind too. And I appreciate you thinking of us when you see those things too. Thanks.
Dee.
I have a lot of fundraising ideas that could be done. Just to let you know, because, we've had to survive off fundraising. I do the Saturday morning fruit market all the way through the summer, as well as doing the Saturday evening, excuse me, the Saturday evening free concerts at the Brewery Arts Center. I also fundraise there. Fundraising, I think, is important because it also allows you to do public outreach. And public outreach is very vital to all centers for independent living, for us to be able to get out there so that people know we're there and we can assist people easier, and also have information at our booth about our centers, activities and things we have coming up. But we spend a lot of time doing that. And I also have a lot of fundraising ideas in my hip pocket all the time. So I'll be happy to help with anything that I can possibly do. Thanks.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. So I guess this is an action item on our agenda. And the reason why I wanted it to be an action item is because I know that the SILC would like to do these things, and it's brand new concept for us, although I do have to say, when Sam Lieberman was around, and he's been fresh on my mind lately, Sam Lieberman had suggested to reach out to Monday's Dark, and he was asking us to get involved in fundraising. And I want to just take a minute to remember him and his efforts, and give him credit for that as well, because he really got me started moving in that direction when he was with us. I guess what I'm asking for is a motion. I'll just throw it out there. I would like to see a motion that the SILC start carving out some funding from our fiscal year no cost extension 21 for some fundraising activities through December of this year. And after that, through our third-party fiscal agent, community chest, to carve out a portion of that money towards fundraising as well. And if I can get a motion to approve that the SILC carve out those funds for fundraising activities, then we can take a vote. I appreciate it.
This is Linda. They voted for the record. I approve the fundraising efforts for the SILC.
Linda makes a motion.
I second it. It's Dee Formaster. I second her motion.
Any discussion?
No, this is Ace Patrick again. No, I think this is a great idea. And I really appreciate, I think it's time myself. And I was just thinking, because I didn't get a chance to mention there's a music group up here called the Notables, and maybe we can partner with them to have some kind of fundraising event, because they are a group of musicians with disabilities, and they're really awesome. And so I'm just throwing that out there before I forget. But thank you for bringing this forward, and I'm just excited about this whole thing. Excited about partnering with the centers as well, and also looking forward to more information from Michelle.
Raquel? Renee, sorry.
Speaking of notables and whatnot, I know a person who's an artist, but also has a disability. I can check with him and see if he would be interested in helping us. Like I said in the past, I've done fundraising with restaurants, places that do haircuts, and a bunch of others that I can't think of right now because I have a headache. But anyway, I can send that over to Dawn, and she can pass it on to you guys, other ideas, and we can go from there once we can see about doing fundraising and whatnot.
Dawn?
I think I'd like to hear what Mary has to say real quick first.
Yeah, and I'd like to provide there's a motion on the table. Okay, Mary.
Oh, this is just up for discussion. And then I don't know if Lisa was still on, but Lisa has an excellent background in fundraising. So I didn't know if you might want to hear a few words from her if she's available.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Lisa, did you have anything to contribute to this conversation?
Hi, I'm not a member, so I was not chiming in. Yeah, I have a pretty extensive fundraising background. So if there's any questions that come up, I might be able to help.
Okay, well, this is Dawn Lyons. Lisa, you can, whenever I say I'd like to hear what the centers have to say, you're welcome to raise your hand, whether you're a member or not. Just I thought I'd throw that out there. But I love all of the suggestions that I've heard so far from everybody, and I would like to get together with individuals outside of the meeting to discuss them and potentially work on them. It sounds like everybody's really enthusiastic about this plan, and I'm really grateful for that. So I'd say let's take a vote and let me work with you behind the scenes after this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd like to call for a vote. Wendy, could you do a roll call?
Yes, this is Wendy Thornley for the record. Evander Davis,
Aye.
Mary Evilsizer,
Aye.
Dee Dee Formaster,
Aye.
Sabra McWhirter,
Aye.
Raquel O'Neill,
Hi.
Renee Portnell,
Aye.
Ace Patrick,
Aye.
Linda Voivoda,
Aye.
Julie Weissman Steinbach,
Aye.
and Peter Whittingham.
Aye.
Motion carries. I look forward to further reports. Dawn, did you have your hand up?
Nope, I'm clapping.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Moving on to item 11. Cheyenne, would you like to give your update?
Hi, this is Cheyenne for the record. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Cheyenne Pasquale, and I'm the designated state representative for the DSE. I think I mixed that up. But I serve as the planning chief with ADSD. So I'll keep my updates pretty brief. Our Olmsted Steering Committee has been meeting monthly for the last couple of months. And we post all of our materials after each steering committee meeting on our website, and I'll drop that link into the chat here in just a moment. One thing to note is we post the ADSD Olmsted Plan template after each meeting so that the public can see the document development in real time. So at every meeting, we're updating a section of the strategic plan, and that's posted online so people can see how it's coming together, in addition to all the backup information that we post. On the website, our partner, Social Entrepreneurs, also has a public comment form so that people can submit public comments and feedback along the way. And that is brought to the steering committee when public comment is received. We've also completed all of our community workshops, and now our partner, Social Entrepreneurs, is working on key informant interviews. And then we are going to host one additional community workshop. And I don't have the date of that yet, but as soon as that's scheduled, we'll send a notice out, and we're going to do that via Zoom. In terms of the community workshops, and there was a few different areas of exploration in those community workshops, and some of the things, the themes that have come out of the workshops is the need for more outreach, more accessible information about programs and services. We know that a lot of people access services through like peer-to-peer support. But in terms of service delivery, some of the services that were identified as most needed to ensure community integration include housing, transportation, in-home care, personal care attendance, and respite care. In terms of geographic locations, there was also some discussion around incentives for serving rural populations, and then also thinking about weather-based accommodations. I imagine particularly this year with all of the snow and whatnot that has hit northern Nevada, that has become more readily apparent as a need. And then in terms of barriers to accessing supports, some of the initial themes include the system being difficult to navigate, long wait lists, inflexible eligibility requirements, and insufficient workforce. So we'll take this information, we'll take the information from the key informant interviews, and then start to really talk about goals and objectives for our ADSD Olmsted plan. Before I move on, I would like to invite, if it's okay, I know we have a couple of people on this call that are on the steering committee, or maybe they've hung up since since I've started talking. And so I was going to just say, if there was anybody that was on the steering committee that wanted to add anything, they could. Oh, Julie is on the steering committee. Sorry. I'm scanning boxes.
I'll jump in here. I think for me, the thing that I found most concerning is because lack of understanding of what Olmsted is. I think that's basic. That's basic knowledge that we need to figure out how to disperse.
Thank you, Julie. I think that's a really excellent point that I did not hit on. So one of the areas of exploration was, what is people's familiarity up with the Olmsted decision? And as Julie said, people aren't very familiar with it. So that is an opportunity.
Any other comments from members of the committee?
Dawn?
Yeah, this is Dawn Lyons. Thanks. I know I just wanted to say I'm making excuses for people, but they're valid because we're in legislative session, and I know that many of the people who were here as guests left the meeting so that they could testify. So I just wanted to throw that out there. They're testifying on SB, oh, where is it? SB 422 right now, I think. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, as far as the education on Olmsted, Julie did speak with the executive team about that. And we've got something in the works behind the scenes on that, because that would be right up our alley as a council. So thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so then the No Wrong Door Steering Committee, I'm just making sure I'm hitting on my points here. So we are getting ready to launch our No Wrong Door Steering Committee, and this is made up of representatives from the various Department of Health and Human Services agencies that administer long-term services and supports, as well as I think Dawn, you are representing the SILC. Catherine is representing the DD Council. So we are going to be launching that in the next month or so. And really, as a reminder for everyone, the purpose of this federal grant is to do an assessment and mapping of our current access points, as well as develop a plan for ongoing no wrong door efforts. And most importantly, ensure that there is a formal governance structure that aligns with the federal guidance for our no wrong door efforts. So there's going to be a lot of work starting with that, and I'll have much more information hopefully at our next meeting. And then finally, I wanted to provide some updates on our ARPA funding and specific to the independent living funding. So we have a competitive notice of funding opportunity for the regular assistive technology for independent living program that's out, and that's going through that competitive process right now. Once those funding decisions are made, then we will provide a supplemental subaward to the chosen agency or agencies for addressing the wait list in that program. So then another part of that is the development of blind services. And I'm going to phone a friend and call on John to give us an update on the blind services piece.
John Roseland for the record. First, I have a question about the ARPA money. And if I heard you correctly, you're saying that, Cheyenne, that we are talking about only issuing the ARPA money to the AT for Independent Living program after we have respondents to next year's program?
Yes, unless I'm confusing my projects, but yes, because of the competitive cycle, we were going to issue out the ARPA funding once the funding decisions were made to address the wait list.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, I'll move on to the, when does that funding end?
In
ARPA.
December of 2024, it has to be obligated by December of 2024 and extended by December of 2026.
Thank you. All right, I'll go to the phone a friend. Okay, blind services. John Roseland for the record again. So in December, I got tasked with exploring and gathering information for blind services pilot program. Boy, talk about a can of worms. I'll speak bluntly, because that's, as you who know me, I speak bluntly. There has not been a reaching out to the blind, low vision community in my entire career. And so I have delved into that, and I can tell you right now that there needs to be a lot more done to explore and talk to people with blindness and low vision. There's a whole array of information that I've learned along this, depending on when a person was blind, from birth, or if they lost their vision later in life. The top three holes are orientation mobility training, which is maybe called cane training. In other words, teaching you how to get around. The biggest gap we have is that there is not orientation mobility training if you are under the age of 55 and you do not have a vocational goal. That's been a barrier for at least 10 years. The second biggest one is where to go. And that's because we don't have a single point of entry where somebody who is losing their vision, or even families, know to reach out to. I stop there because my mind automatically goes to, well, why would they call a Center for Independent Living? But that really isn't where I don't think we have been directing people to centers for independent living to engage in those things. In some of the individuals I talked to who were born without sight, technically blind or lost their vision at an early age, didn't engage with centers for independent living. Their parents almost went and engaged and created their own avenues, which is very interesting. Because I found a lot of the people that had lost their sight early and from an early age integrated into community living much more outgoing as far as chasing careers and trying to do certain things. Then I found people that had lost their sight later in life, where it was more maybe pretty devastating, losing a career, losing a job, not going back into the workforce. And that kind of took me to the third point, and that was peer connections. There's not a single point where somebody's going to connect with peers, other people that are blind, to find out what they've done, what they've been successful. So that was quite an eye opener. There's people kind of in different areas throughout the state. I engaged with one group, and almost nobody gave any feedback other than complaints of, they were not happy with online information being provided or filling out doctors' information online because it wasn't accessible. And in my mind, I live in the world of assistive technology. I'm going, well, why aren't they able to access that? And so people just don't want to utilize those technologies or engage in that way. So what I can tell you about a blind services pilot program is we're really premature in trying to suggest something. I really do believe that what should be followed is what was inserted in the NRS, I think about 5 or 6 years ago, and that is to really explore and engage the blind community and find out what services are needed. One of the comments that I received back from somebody who I engaged and said, hey, why am I having a hard time getting people to share what their experiences were, what were good and what was bad? And their response was, because nobody ever asked us. That's kind of a concern. That is what I see and have seen in my time as a person with a disability. So I think I really do think that if we're going to be talking about blind services pilot programs, we should be first engaging those communities and finding out really what those holes and gaps are. Now, I haven't done that officially. I haven't put that report back together within ADSD and done that. Just today, the Talking Books folks published in their newsletter going out to about 1,200 people. So I'm hoping I'm going to get some more feedback there and some direct contacts to try to get more information and kind of hone in on some of the things that are missing and really be able to come back with something substantial. In my mind, putting a quick one-year project together that fades without any data is going to be difficult. And it's been done before, and it doesn't really serve a population. I'll pause there because I see Don's hands up.
This is Dawn Lyons. Thanks. I'm wondering right now if either of the center directors could speak to having any data on that, or what their experience has been as far as people looking for blind services when they come into the Center for Independent Living. Mary or Lisa, do you have any input? Or Dee Dee?
Very.
Hi, this is Dee Dee.
Dee Dee, sorry. I said Mary. She was first, sorry.
Who, what?
Mary was first.
All right.
Okay.
For the record, this is Mary Evil Sizer, and John, I applaud this project and I agree with what you're finding. In our experience at the Southern Nevada Center for Independent Living, we do work with a certain percentage of individuals who are blind or low vision. And I feel that we have a good working relationship also with the Blind Connect and the Blind Center. So we get the referrals from Blind Connect or the Blind Center, or they find us on the internet. The service that they most ask from us is assistance with Social Security. As many of you know, Social Security offers higher benefits for individuals that are blind, but sometimes everything falls through the cracks. So we help them to assess their benefits and we help them to get on track. The other service that's asked from us is housing. So we work with blind individuals and low vision individuals in locating housing. Transportation is another service that sometimes they just find us on the internet. Now, very few individuals who are blind have come to us for cane training. Usually for the cane training, they have a tendency, they start with the Helen Keller Institute and then work their way back down to us. And in the time that I have been here in Nevada, it's been several decades, we've never seemed to have had adequate services. Nothing against anybody. The state did everything they could. You know, Blind Connect, Blind Center, it's just not enough. And then we also work with individuals who do not consider themselves blind. They have low vision or loss of vision. They could be considered blind, but they don't see themselves as blind. So they come into the center and they'll say, okay, I have a physical disability, but they don't recognize their blindness. Then the other type of consumer we get at the center is individuals that are blind, but they don't want to connect with the blind community. And we understand that once you connect with the blind community, that means you have to admit that you're blind. So John, you were right in saying there's all different levels. At the centers, we say that all of our services are available to all individuals of all disabilities. However, we don't have the expertise for the cane training, but we do have, if we have the resources in the community, we have the capacity, the will, and the desire to help them to develop a plan and write the action steps to access the resources.
Thank you, Betty. Dee Dee and Lisa.
This is Dee Dee Formaster for the record. We have had about 4 individuals in the last 2 months that have been visually impaired due to strokes. And it's usually, well, the 4 we've received recently were men, and they were in their 50s. And Social Security is one thing we worked with them on a lot. Also trying to get referrals for them. But I think that there's a terrific need for blind services. And I did make the proper referrals to try and get help and assistance for them. Most of them do want to go back to work, but cannot work in their fields that they were in previously. So I've referred them to vocational rehab and blind services. But yes, there does need to be a lot more services for visually impaired and blind that I've seen. Most of the people that I have seen, unfortunately, are extremely vulnerable because they're on the streets. And so it's extremely heart-wrenching to see what they're going through. So, and with the housing situation like it is, it's not been easy. That's my input.
Thank you. Lisa?
Hi, everyone. Lisa Bonney for the record. As some of you know, you may remember Jack Mays from the NDALC put on a series of town hall meetings around this very subject, probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And I became informed about the lack of services through those town hall meetings as I sat through them. And that's when NNCIL started the path to creating some programming for blind and low vision, which we now have a full-time staff person who offers training. We totally recognize the lack of O&M training, orientation and mobility training. We have been trying for a number of years to find some foundation, some grant money, some way of providing that training, because that training has to be provided by somebody who is licensed. You don't just go out and teach somebody how to use a cane because you think you know how to do it yourself. You can get somebody killed that way. But we have a very active program, quite a bit of peer support. John, I don't know how much you've talked with Mark, but a good example would be one of our peer support groups this week had 19 people that were participating in it. We have NVDA training and we have iOS training, and we are out in the rurals every week in a different place. We will be in Carson City on Friday, Gardnerville, Fallon, Fernley. So we are out doing as much as we can, but the need is great. And I am so excited to hear this being discussed, because it has been a real gap for a long time. So once again, John, if you haven't had an extensive conversation with Mark, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, hi, this is East Patrick. I don't know, Mary, if you know, or is Michelle still here? I was wondering what happened with the O&M training that they did at Volk Rehab, because that's where I got my O&M training here. And I know when Forrest retired, did they just not have the funding to replace him, or does anybody, do you know at all, Lisa? Why?
Oops.
You know, why we're lacking an O&M trainer up here, and why VR didn't replace him?
Actually, they do have an O&M trainer. I believe the gap that John is referencing, and it's what we see here at our center, is for people who are not in the school system and don't qualify for older blind, and they don't have any vocational goals at the moment. And to quote a dear friend of mine who lost his vision in the middle of his career, you can't think about vocational training if you can't get out your front door. And so I think that sets up the conversation for this big gap for people who lose their vision that fall outside the set parameters of the programs that exist currently.
Right, this is Ace again, because Forrest, because I wasn't seeking work or anything, and I definitely wasn't in school, but Forrest Mitchell, when he was there at Volk Rehab up here, up in the north, he was doing cane training for seniors and providing that.
Well, once again, seniors, so people who
Right.
fell into the, we're
That
talking about
category.
that big crack between 18 and 50.
Got
that,
it. Yeah, so, okay, so there is nobody currently then that is providing. Wow, okay. That's really sad. Okay, thank you.
Mary,
This is Raquel O'Neill for the record. Am I able to share some information here?
Sure. Go ahead, Raquel.
As the president of Blind Connect, we've definitely noted the gap in services for people who are blind and low vision. And, you know, one of the problems that we face here is really, as Lisa mentioned, the licensing required to become an orientation and mobility specialist is really a specialized field, and it's extremely small. And so I myself have just recently been certified and licensed for vision rehabilitation therapy, which was an additional master's degree that I had to get from Western Michigan University. And I am only one of 2 people in our entire state who has certification in vision rehab therapy. Now, I am able to teach people white cane basics indoors. I can teach them protective techniques, how to utilize the cane indoors, and our training facility does a really nice job at that, because if you've never been to the Mobility Training Center in Las Vegas, it's an amazing facility that basically simulates the outdoors indoors. So I'm able to take somebody and teach them how to walk up and down steps and ramps and up and down sidewalks inside of our facility using the cane, and I am certified to do that. But when I was attending Western Michigan University, there was only in the whole class of master's level students going to obtain an orientation and mobility degree, there was only 5 individuals, 5 for the whole United States. And there's only about 3 schools in the entire United States that offers a master's degree in this field. So to put perspective on what the blindness community faces right now, this is part of it. And Nevada specifically as a state does not actually require certification in orientation and mobility or vision rehabilitation therapy. Although we know it's the right thing to do, the state doesn't require that as a qualification in order to teach it. What's required is a bachelor's degree in disabilities, in a disability related field, and 2 years of working with people with disabilities. That's what's required by our state. And as you guys have all mentioned, there's a huge gap. We see it every day at Blind Connect of people who are needing the services and needing the help from, you know, age 18 to 55 that are not being served because they're medically retiring from vision loss. And this is a huge, huge problem. And that's why I raised the question to several people in December and started the conversation about why in America, why is it that when we lose our arms, our legs, when we lose a part of functioning, we go to rehabilitation, we go to some kind of center to get help. And when we lose our eyesight, we're basically told, go home, go home. We're not provided resources. We're not provided information about what to do next. And we're definitely not provided a white cane to at least start exploring or learning what to do with it. We're not provided anything. And that's a huge failure in our society and our system that I would love to champion and advocate, see changed. And so I really, really appreciate you, John, for bringing this back up again. We do have a vision services team meeting of all of the heads of different vision services that meets once a quarter on Zoom. And we have identified some areas based on talking with our constituents and consumers about what are top priorities for the blindness and low vision community. And they have identified, obviously, the services, orientation and mobility and rehabilitation therapy are part of the top priority concerns. The next are housing, transportation, and mental health. And our vision services team that meets once a quarter is trying to work out solutions to these priorities. And we'd love it if you can join us at our next meeting, John.
This is John Raquel. Thank you. I would love to. So Raquel, would you agree with my suggestion that really you need to engage with people that have the disability more so before creating something? Do you think that that's a good approach?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think always going to people and asking, what are your thoughts? What was your experience? It really lends to understanding it. It's complex and everybody has a different story to tell. And it definitely goes with the independent living model, because what we do at Blind Connect is we talk to people about where they're at and we meet them where they're at. And we ask, what do you see as your next steps? And a lot of times it's not employment. A lot of times it's just getting day by day answering their phone and things like that of that nature. And so I absolutely would love to see more people being asked about these things and what their experiences are so that it can be better met and better served.
Thank you. The reason I kind of put you on the spot is because that's one of the things that in talking to individuals, there's a number of individuals that I've spoke to that aren't ready. They're still in that rehabilitative state, which we've been missing for at least 10 years. I'm glad Ace brought that up about she received orientation mobility training but didn't have a vocational goal. That was removed from vocational rehab and DETR about 10 years ago. It completely eliminated the option of them providing that for people without a vocational goal. So they didn't have the funding and the resources to do that. So what Raquel just said really is that also that missing piece. You're not ready to go to work. That doesn't just apply to blindness. If you have a life-changing disability happen tomorrow and you had a career, it doesn't mean you're ready to go work on Monday. It may be months, it may be years from that point to be able to rebuild confidence, to get back into that mode of first being able to live independently. So yes, all of those pieces are missing. So when I talk to an individual that's been had vision loss for 10 years, but they're still not ready to take that step, it's very difficult to say, oh, well, maybe some pain training, orientation mobility training would be where you would start. They're really not ready for that. So how many individuals are out there? How many people aren't involved in those groups? And that's where I really think that that's where the focus needs to be. Engaging consumers. I'm gonna just drop off because I see Don's hand up, but the nothing about us without us means something. It is not just this slogan that's kind of caught on and kind of popped back up over the last year or two, but it is true. Somebody should not be trying to serve me and provide me services that doesn't understand my disability and isn't capable of listening. So, and then one last thing I got to add is, yes, Lisa, I have talked to Mark, and I actually am going to be touching bases with him tomorrow. Don, I'll mute up here. So,
I'll call on Dawn in a minute, and then I want to make sure Cheyenne reported everything she did.
Evander Davis, for the record, before we close that out, can I say a few things?
Of course, and then Dawn.
So I think that everything that everybody has said is correct. And, I work at a place at the Blind Center, where we catch people who are just now losing their vision. And we get a lot of eye doctors and people sending them here. And like you said, we don't have mobility teachers here. All we have is peer-to-peer. And that's not something that you want to send a person who's just learning to be out on a cane out in the world with, because you're not confident enough to say, hey, I taught you everything I could teach you. You never want to send someone out without the proper training. And it's definitely, like they said, people aren't ready to go back to work. They're not ready to move on yet. But I think that another problem that we have with like Raquel said, when you lose your vision, you're just sent home. And I think that's because people think, oh, well, they just lost their vision. Their mind still works. Their arms, their legs still work. They can still hear, that is just a minor infraction. But they don't realize that I watch a lot of people and they're devastated when they lose their vision. They don't know how to go on not being able to see things. And that's something that we need to make sure that the community at large understands. It's not a minor thing. This is something that is devastating for people, and we have to treat that as such. So that's why we definitely need to bridge those gaps so that everyone can get the training that they need.
Dawn,
This is Dawn Lyons. I just want to say that there's a theme coming out of this conversation, and although there's not necessarily the hard data or numbers to back it up, it's coming across loud and clear, and that is the first step of recovery from or rehabilitation from becoming blind is being completely overlooked. And this is causing a domino effect of serious crises in people's lives. I'm willing to bet that we can get more data on that, and that the SILC can even help the state come up with some data to back that up. If we create some kind of an outreach program, we can work with, and by the way, I just want to brag about the Blind Center, because Havander's been bragging about how they're building an apartment complex for their employees and the people that they serve who are blind. And I just think that's fantastic. And I wish more organizations could do something like that for their consumers and their employees. But anyway, off from that side topic, I think that this could definitely help. If John, you want to create some kind of a survey or a short little brief questionnaire, something like that, that we could actually, take a trip over to the Blind Center, or take a trip over to Blind Connect, take a trip over to different places where we know that we can reach consumers and that are blind or visually impaired, and we can get their feedback specifically about those things, and then take further steps after that maybe that might be beneficial. And yes, nothing about us without us is, I keep trying to remind people of that, and even within our own council, sometimes people lose sight of that, and it's so important to ensure that you're not just assuming that people need something, that you're actually getting that information from the people who need it. So I appreciate that you're doing that, John, and I appreciate everyone's input today. And John, reach out to me if you'd like us to. We already said we'd help. I mean, if you'd like us to do some outreach on that, or if you have any ideas, please, we're here to help.
John Logan, for the record, absolutely. But since December, there's been a whirlwind, right? The legislature is in effect. I completely respect how much time everybody has. Do I think a survey is a good opportunity? I think it's a good opportunity. But I think taking an hour to engage with an individual and really find out what the different, what has happened in their life and what's important and what's not, that's where you find the little offshoots of what barriers really exist in a person's life. I'm going to just relay one last thing. Is early on in talking with Mark Tatter, just trying to get some input from him back in December, what was just like, he just brought up the whole transportation issue, which I can completely relate to on a physical disability level, because there's no one thing, right? Your economical situation, your severity of your disability, where you live, the sidewalk out in front of your driveway. I mean, all of these things are factors to affect your transportation. And so to say, well, transportation made the number one on the list, well, that's easy for me to say, right? I can make this easy statement. The question is how do we remove the barriers for the 30 people that all have that same need, but they're all different barriers? If you can understand what I'm saying there, that's an important thing. There's 30 different barriers there that the people have, and you don't fix it by saying, well, we're going to create another transportation program or discount tickets or so on and so forth. You have to really engage with an individual and then take a step back and go, well, number one, is there a way to address it? And then what is your step going forward? Orientation mobility training is, like I said, one that we've known has been missing for a long period of time. But if you take a step back further 20 years from today, the reason we don't have a lot of orientation mobility in Nevada is because the only place that could be provided was through the or the blind center and rehabilitation side. So now you look forward and you're like, well, how come we don't have anybody? Why wouldn't people be coming to Nevada? There's not a lot of job opportunities out there, most likely, if that was only done through that vocational and DETR area. So there's a lot there to digest. And I do want to reach out to the SILC. I know you guys are moving forward with building a state plan. So this is certainly one of those gaps in service that exists that needs more exploration and really needs to deal with those individuals.
John, I want to make sure Cheyenne reported everything she had. And then it's your turn.
Thank you, Julie. This is Cheyenne for the record, and I did complete everything that I had. So thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cheyenne. Okay. John, we're ready for your report.
Don Roseland for the record.
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is Dawn Lyons. I just want to throw it out there that this will probably be our last presentation for the day, most likely, unless it's going to be 5 minutes, but it never is with you, John. So I want to leave time for public comment too. And I just wanted to say it's 3:37.
I thought we were. Okay. Go ahead.
All right, this is John Roseland for the record, and I bet Cheyenne won't phone a friend again, and if that friend is out there, it probably won't be me. But I talked for half an hour. Anyway, that was just a little joke. Phone a friend anytime, call me, Cheyenne. I'm going to go over the Assistive Technology for Independent Living program that is part of the SILC plan. I usually start this off with just a little description of the program, a little of the history in case we got some new people in the audience. If I get moving too quickly, please somebody say something because I tend to talk faster as I get nervous. So the Assistive Technology for Independent Living program has been around in Nevada for 25 plus years. I actually think it's a little over 30, but I don't have a confirmation or the data on that. The Assistive Technology for Independent Living program has been named a number of things. The State Independent Living Program, what have you. That's the name that we go by today. And that's because it has been a combination of multiple things. It was created through the Nevada SILC to address those essential daily living barriers that people have and still have in living in the community versus a institutional setting. Those are the main things, like the essential daily living stuff. How do you get in and out of your home? How do you get throughout your home? How do you address your self-care, which is a wide range of things, including your personal mobility, transportation needs. Communication is one of those. It's a wide range of things, but in actuality, kind of a narrow focus on essential daily living. It doesn't take into expanding and systems change that you would usually find in a center for independent living. The program is a blend. It's a unique program. It's one of the only ones in the United States that addresses people's barriers in this way, and that's first starting with their independent living goal, fleshing out what that independent living goal is and what they're trying to accomplish and what their desired outcome is. Trying to access the home, access the community, so on and so forth. The next step is exploratory, looking at what assistive technology is going to remove that barrier. Assistive technology is just basically any solution that removes that barrier for an individual with a disability. It could be a wheelchair ramp, it could be a wheelchair, it could be a walker, it could be a door opener, it could be a environmental control unit that allows somebody to adjust the temperature in their home and lighting, or open a door from their bed. Assistive technology is just solutions. So that second phase is exploring what options there are, right? What could remove that barrier and what's going to be most appropriate for the individual. The third and final step, that's where our state money, state resources come in, and that's if no other options to purchase it can be found, we can utilize those funds. I'll move from that point on into the funding. The program has 3 funding sources. It's $140,000 a year through the Nevada SILC. Anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000 for the assistive technology collaborative. There is about $14,000 that we got from some aging title funds. And then the remainder of that is state general fund, which comes to about $1.3 million. About just in percentage wise, that usually comes to about 25% of that is an operational cost. That's the staff that are engaging with the consumer, helping them develop the independent living goals, and those other steps that I mentioned, exploring the assistive technology, and then finally helping to engage with vendors, get quotes, get the work completed, and then pay the vendor. I'll stop right there. Is there any questions regarding the budget and funding before I move on to the next section? I don't see any hands, so I'm going to move forward. So an important part that I'm going to highlight is the satisfaction and life impact survey data that we have. So after a consumer receives services, there's actually two surveys that can go out. One, if a consumer was to withdraw or didn't have any goals completed, we survey them and ask them some questions, which I'll go over at the end. If the person had at least one goal accomplished, we survey them as well and ask them different questions. And those questions revolve around, their satisfaction with the staff, their overall satisfaction with the program, the amount of choice and control that they had, the percentage that think that that it made a positive impact on their life. We have them rate their vendors. We ask them what their overall quality of life is after those goals were met. Ask them what their independence was related to those goals that they established and accomplished. Ask them how often is that assistive technology used. We ask them what the chances of staying out of a nursing home are after those services. And then we ask them, of course, if they think it should still be funded. So I'll go through some of those outcomes with y'all. And the first is the rating of the staff. So this is rating the individuals that they worked with directly when they developed those independent living goals and plans. Currently, we're reporting from October on your federal year, which would be October through March, 6-month period. We have 96% as excellent and 4% as good. There's no negative responses to the staff as a whole. Choice and control. So how much choice and control did the consumer feel they had? That's rated as they had a lot of choice and control, they had quite a bit of choice and control, or they had a little choice and control, or not enough choice and control. As reported, 73% said they had a lot of choice and control, 27% said they had quite a bit of choice and control, and there was no negatives that fall down in that that little choice and control or not enough. Overall satisfaction of the program was easy. 100% of the respondents said that they were very satisfied. Again, 100% of the respondents said that the services made a positive impact on their life. When asked about their overall quality of life following services, This is after the accomplishing of their goals and those being addressed. 71% improved a lot, 23% improved quite a bit. So we use those top two measures to kind of look at that as a whole, and that's 94% positive feedback. Overall independence related to the goals established, 96% positive feedback. That's with 81% that improved a lot and 15% that improved quite a bit. To kind of speed this along, I know you'll have to do some public work or public comment. One important piece of this is how often that assistive technology is used. 96% of those individuals use that daily. It's a daily necessity to have those solutions in place. Only 4.2% use it weekly, and none as monthly or every 3 months or as an extended period. So that gives you some insight as to respondents to this program of how important those solutions are. Jumping to the goal section, you've heard me report before. I'll usually report the high 3 goal areas, and they still remain the same. That is self-care. So being able to care for oneself, bathing, toileting, preparing a meal, or feeding oneself, those are all essential daily living goals, right? Those are all things we have to do every day to live. That's the highest percentage of goals that we always have. That's looking back through history, that's always the #1 goal area that an individual engages this program about. With 349 goals set, 122 of those goals met, and 201 in progress. The rest are closed for other reasons, either withdrawn or were unable to contact the consumer. Second and third, these two are usually neck and neck, and that's a lump together, mobility and transportation. So personal mobility and personal transportation are the secondary majority of goals set. And then the third one is community-based living, and that usually in our world means accessing the home, being able to get in and through the home, being able to get in through doorways, in and out of the house, ramps, so on and so forth. Communication goals are third, and that would be both speaking and hearing. 51 goals set, 12 met, 32 in progress. I'm going to jump to the call records, and this is we record how many people are engaging with the program, and we have some indicators in there. Where if somebody is wanting to move forward with developing goals, that has to be the first step, right? If somebody's like, no, I don't want to develop an independent living goal, obviously we can't engage with that person, which typically isn't the problem when you talk to them about the benefits of engaging in that independent living goal. So we call them a program information packet, and that's somebody that wants to move forward. And we ask them to kind of do a self-evaluation, basically going through a series of things to consider think in terms of from when you wake up in the morning till you go to bed at night. What are some of the barriers that you would run into? Getting in and out of bed is usually one of the first ones, on through to self-care. That program information packet is really an instrument to have that person engage and think about areas that they want to improve. And then that's used to help guide them back when you're developing those independent living goals, to flesh out some of those things that they may have a triage issue that they're trying to address right now. Right? This is the big thing today. I can't get in and out of my home, but there's other barriers there. Helps to bring all those things into light so that the individual can make some choices, right? If you come back and face them with, well, getting in and out of the home is a priority, and then where does the bathing goal fit? Allows them to kind of prioritize where those things should go. In that calls record, we had 96 people so far that have engaged in that program information packet. So we would expect that those 96 people would become consumers during the year. We had 28 people that received verbal information and chose not to move forward with an independent living goal. So they didn't engage with the program. And then we had 8 general information. People called and said, please send us something, but we're not ready to move forward. Total referrals that we've made for the year, about 399. That's give or take a few. And 31 technical assistances. So those would have been, during the call, they had some type of technical assistance that was needed, and the staff provided that to them. The only other thing that I may have glazed over, and that was prioritized services. And that's always an important aspect of what we look at, or that I look at. We had, of the goals that have been set and met, and that includes any of the cases carried over from the previous year. So in a Center for Independent Living's world, or in this program's world, there's not just a time frame that the case ends. It's based on those independent living goals. So there could be an individual's case that carries over for 2 years because those certain goals haven't been met. So when I'm speaking about these numbers, those goals could have been carried over, and we're reporting them as met now, but it's because it relates to that person's entire independent living plan. Of those goals, we had 109 goals related to prevention. That's preventing somebody going into a care facility. And what that 109 goals relates to is 67 consumers. So 67 of the consumers that we've served in the last 6 months had a goal, had one of those 109 goals related to trying to prevent them from going in a care facility. It's pretty interesting information when we can break it down and look at it that way to see how much of an impact the program can have. I'm going to pause right there with a few minutes left.
Good.
Thank you. This is Dawn Lyons. First of all, I just want to correct what I said earlier. We do not have a public comment until tomorrow at the end of our meeting again. We started with one at the beginning of our meeting, so I misstated, and I apologize for that. But I do have a question for you, John. Just off the top of your head, because I'm assuming you don't have past numbers in front of you to compare. Do you see any differences in trends with the IL program since COVID that you have identified, or has anything stuck out to you that's different?
Not necessarily. When we had COVID, because we do have the necessity of vendors going into the consumer's home, especially with home modifications. During COVID, there was, we approached it from a comfortability. Did the person want to move forward with the service or put it on hold? So there wasn't anything that highlighted. It wasn't like we saw an explosion of withdrawals or people that we couldn't contact. That's kind of a natural part of this program, and it always has been. Of we try to maintain at least monthly contact with the consumer, and it's their independent living plan. So there's a lot of emphasis put on, these are your goals, so please follow up. But there's a mandatory in our goals and objectives, in our policy that says we're going to follow up every 30 days. But there's nothing that's gleaming that says COVID showed us something different. It just changed the way that we could engage with that. If somebody didn't want somebody in their home, of course we had to make a change, and that person's services may have extended longer and lasted another year. They may have came over into another year before we could serve them. But that's about it. I think the main thing we're going to see is that we still see, I mean, these are still the essential things, right? There's no change in that. I can't go through Medicare or Medicaid, and I'm not talking about the physical disability waiver that has one little small slot of funds. There are no resources to modify your home as your disability gets worse, or you acquire a disability, or you move to another location. Homes aren't built universally designed, and they don't usually come equipped with certain things. So these types of barriers exist if you have those types of barriers in your life. I'll pause there.
Mary.
Thank you, Julie. For the record, this is Mary Evilsizer. John, we at SNCIL appreciate everything that you do. It's valuable work in removing barriers. A trend that we've noticed at the center is with individuals that are interested in transitioning from a care facility to the community. We know the trend was there before, but it seemed to just exacerbate during COVID. And that's where it appears that the residents have one phone that they share. It's almost like they have to go to the office to get the phone to make a phone call. And my question to you with the IL program, in the past, it was that the IL program was able to prioritize individuals interested in transitioning from institutional living to the community. Is it possible for a third party, let's say a CIL, we understand and we respect how IL services work, where it is preferred that the consumer call and request the services. But I'm wondering if it would be possible in cases like this, that we could partner together with the IL program and the CIL to help provide the individual with better access to communicating.
Well, it depends on what the communication, the basis, the only thing I can see, Mary, is that you can establish an independent living goal for an individual. And that's the pathway into the program as it was created. So that would be, maybe I'm not understanding exactly what you're asking. Like, would you be able to access, I'm throwing this out there. Are you asking, could you access some funding and purchase a phone for somebody and then not have to engage with the program? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm sorry, I should be clearer with my question. Let me put it in plain English. If a person is in a nursing home and they call us and then we say, oh, great, you found your apartment. We know you need to widen the door. We know of a wonderful program that can help you. Now you will have to call that program, set up a time and to set up a time to meet with them. Sometimes they can't get the phone to set up a time to meet with the IL program. So we just wanted to know, we would never write up a goal for anyone, but can we help to coordinate the appointment with CareTrust?
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, John Roseland for the record, absolutely. So if an assistive technologist or an independent living specialist is working with the consumer, there should be a team approach. Anybody that's involved in that would want to engage with that person to do that. Again, we've done this before, Mary, and with the Centers for Independent Living to transition somebody out. We would hope that they would start those independent living goals with this project, so that if any bumps along the way, if there is any assisted technology needed along in that transition, that they would be able to access that. The same with money follows the money follows the person side of things. That's the way we've tried to always operate. If they're if they're working with somebody to transition, the person most likely is going to have some type of barrier to assistive technology, whether it's modification or a piece of equipment, and that's usually the role that this program's played. So certainly, you just like being a representative with the consumers, helping them make that phone call and connect and get that independent living goal put together is absolutely possible.
Great, thank you. It's just becoming more and more of a barrier. So we can work in that capacity. Thank you. And I know we worked greatly as a team before, just another new barrier in the glitch, but now we know nursing home transitions are still prioritized and we can serve as a third party. Thank you.
It's 3:59. We've hard stop at 4. So I'm gonna end this discussion now, and we're gonna go into recess until tomorrow at 1. Thank you.